not, this is actually John and I's second awesome conversation.
For
Skillz
the day.
conversation for the day. Yeah. So we've
Oh
already
yeah.
rocking and rolling, talking about MegaCon, now known as Escape 2020, which I think is a very appropriate name for the event.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming at you guys here in the next few months. Just be ready, be prepared. There's a lot of brains behind what's coming out, behind MegaCon. Let's see. This is actually our fourth or fifth time, and it's already Wednesday, Michael.
Yeah, yeah, we've been on pretty hardcore for you guys behind the scenes, and in fact, just in the 3 minutes before the show here, while John and I were chatting, I think we have our next big thing lined up that's going to be really valuable for some of you and save you probably. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but let's just say it's going to save you half your stuff.
Yeah.
Those of you that are old Eddie Murphy fans, you know about half Eddie, half your stuff. We're going to save it for you. All right. Speaking of which, saving your stuff. So we got a great topic for you today. Now, I don't know that some of you guys that are younger grew up watching westerns and the Lone Ranger and all the things that maybe those of us of a certain age grew up watching. But when I was a kid and something went wrong, your friends stole something or they were getting ahead in whatever game you were playing in the woods, the way to get your advantage back was to head them off at the pass. We didn't even know what that meant back then, but it was, we got to head them off at the pass because we heard Lone Ranger and Tonto talking about it and stuff like that. So in our businesses and in our teaching experiences and our sales processes, we also have a pass. Now, the pass in the Western meant, hey, they were going around the mountain stealing our stuff, and we cut through the mountain pass. I think more what we're talking about today is when someone wants to pass. So you've given your sales presentation or whatever it is that you have in your school. And I think John and I do it a little differently than many people do. And then you get a pass. Maybe it's a hard pass. Oh, yeah, no, we're not ready for that. Or it's a soft pass. Well, we have a couple other schools to look at. Well, I really want to go home and talk it over with my wife. There's all these soft passes where typically it means they're saying no without saying no. So we want to head them off even before the pass. So the title of the video is At the Pass. We want to head them off even before the pass. So, I think usually we start with the business aspect of it because we speak to mostly business owners here on this broadcast or business managers. So what are some of the passes that maybe we'll be chatting about today? Some of those things that stole our victory somehow, or stole our success, or stole our goal, or instead of our gold, stole our gold. What are those things we're going to be chatting about today?
There are three that comes in, I guess, quite heavy or most common things that a lot of school owners face. However, while you guys are listening, if you got like certain passes that you guys see all the time in your studio, comment them or put them in the comments so maybe we can help you guys help you cross that pass or recover the pass. But the three are usually it's money, time, or spouse. Okay, and those are the three that's most common when we're talking to school owners that they face a lot of. So whatever it is that you guys feel like you get a lot of times in your area, comment, put them in the comment so we're able to help you figure out how to just kind of like dust it off and be able to help them see the way. How does that?
I see the light.
You see the light.
See the light.
And I mean, because if you know what they might, if you know what you're going to face, right, you'll be able to find a way to answer,
Mm-hmm.
right? What, even though you might see the money rejection a lot, if you're not expecting it in the middle of that conversation, then it kind of takes you by surprise.
Yeah, and I think there's different levels to addressing these objections too. You know, there's the tactical, all right, I'm prepared for when this comes up. And then there's the strategic, I already know it's coming up. I'm gonna cut its head off before it even has a chance.
Yes.
So I think, you know, John said post them in the comments below. I think one thing that was really valuable to me is just that, is when we were starting our journey from being just, you know, Mike's Kung Fu place down in Patchogue, we were one of 17 schools within 100 yards. And I'm not even joking about that number. You know, one of the things that helped us start elevating our game was keeping a log, an MCO log, and we kept it right by the phone. And that was our most common objections. So every time we spoke to someone on the phone and they objected to setting the appointment or to coming in or even to interest, we just noted it down. No emotional aspect to it. No like, oh, these people, just price. Too expensive. Wrong time. You know, interferes with baseball. And we just kept that log, and it made it really useful so that at the end of a month, we could go back. And now it's not like, you know, if you don't keep it written down, what tends to happen is the ones that frustrate you emotionally the most are the ones that you fixate on. Oh man, I can't believe they said baseball again. It's always that they're quitting because of baseball. It's always that it interferes with baseball. Meanwhile, you had 2 people say that their kids played baseball, and you just have such a thing for people that quit because of baseball that's all you focused on, when 20 people said, well, it's because the time doesn't match. So keeping that list lets you have a really objective measure of what are people's objections. And then it lets you craft strategies and tactics. Both are important, because no matter how good you can lead a conversation, there's always somebody that's going to throw you a curveball, you know? So you got to have both. And it lets you, I don't want to say script it, but script it in the sense of just, here's my guidelines of the things I like to talk about. You know, stay on script, not necessarily like, well, my script says I should say this. You know, having that game plan kind of thing. So Katie says that the class times don't fit into a family schedule. So right there, one of the first ones that John mentioned as one of the more common objections in our industry is time. So sometimes it's, I don't have enough time for this in my life. And I think you hear that more from adults, not always, but generally. Or this time doesn't match what I have available. It's not that I don't have the time, it's that the time I have available and the time that you offer class don't match, right?
Yep.
So it's not on par. And I'm just gonna pop that up so people can see that Katie had an awesome comment. So there's a couple considerations here, I think, and the time is a great one because Americans especially, so if you're watching from the UK or from Europe, this may not apply, I just don't know. Americans have this fascination with being busy, right? Everything gets occupied. Every moment of your time has to feel occupied. Now, we can talk all about the difference between busy and productive. But what we have to realize is 2 things. First of all, parents have a set of needs for their timing. So it is important to acknowledge that. So if I have my extreme skills class at 12 o'clock on Monday, it's not going to work because those kids are in school. But if I have my early skills at 12 o'clock on Monday, it's not going to work for some people who have jobs, but it will still work for the affluent segment of the community who has a parent that can stay at home or has a nanny or something of that sort, an au pair. So The other half of it is, while yeah, I have to be aware of parents' needs, I also have to be aware of who's my demographic. Our classes start at 3:45 for our 3 and 4-year-olds. That is really early. So if you work till 4 or 5 or 6, or especially if you work in Manhattan, which many people here do, you're not getting home till 7. So why am I having my classes at 3:45? Well, because the science behind how much kids need time to wind down before they get a good meal and then can digest, and the parasympathetic nervous system has a chance to kick in so they can get a good night's sleep based on the time that you have to wake them up in the morning and get them ready for preschool or work or whatever it is. They need to be done by 4:15. So now I also realize that I'm not going to get everybody. 50% of the people that walk through my door aren't going to be able to come to my classes. That said, there are something like 190,000 people within 10 miles of my school. About half of them have kids, and about a quarter of those have kids 3 or 4 years old. So we're still talking tens of thousands of kids. I can fit about 20 of them in my classes. I don't need them all. I only need the ones that match. So John, like, what's your take on time? You know, if you're getting this sort of objection.
I mean, you actually nailed it, because, what we did was a study where, when do schools let out? How long does it take the average bus, take their kids, home? What time do most of those kids get home? And that's how we planned our classes. So, for example, we used to have our early skills classes at 3:30. Well, we weren't growing, you know what I mean? Because something about that window. I mean, we had some kids, right? We had some early skills kids, but at 3:30, chances are they have a sibling. Chances are that sibling is a little bit older. Chances are that kid doesn't get home until 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's not even the preschooler that you're considering at that point. It's the maybe middle schooler that maybe has a sports thing after school. And so while you're saying, well, a 3-year-old should be free at 3:45 or 3:30, the rest of the family might not be. So especially, I would say there, like, I know you have a lot of families in your school just because of the format of your facility and the way you're able to host like back-to-back classes or parallel classes. So I would say your demographic, it's far more important than my demographic to cater to that, where my demographic tends to be, especially in the New York metro area, 1 or maybe 2 kids, so it's not as important.
I mean, we've got families as little as, 1 child and as big as 5 kids. So I want to do it in a way where a parent is not necessarily sitting in our lobby for 5 hours because they've got 5 kids. 5 kids, we're roughly looking at maybe 2 hours. 2 or 3 kids, we're looking at maybe an hour and a half, or an hour, depending on the age range between the kids. But what we did is once we got that perfect window, we said, okay, their classes will start about an hour and a half to 2 hours after the school lets out.
Time to get home, you get a snack, take care of potty issues, whatever else.
Yep. And at the same time, it kind of allows us to, have multiple age group classes happening at the same time, just because of the way we designed our program. But even then, if you're a 1-person, 1 facility, 1 studio, not multiple studios, you can still design it in a way that's profitable for you. It just means it's a little bit later on in the day.
So I think there's 2 other aspects here. First of all, time is relative. And I don't mean in a scientific way, which, we can get into that, different show. A lot of times, remember we said, and it's not the purpose of today's show, but there's a difference between people who are busy and people who are constantly productive. Most people are just busy. So the time discussion becomes one of, is it worth it for me to readjust my schedule to make this happen? So when you can start to talk about the benefits of why you schedule it, and John, I'm sure that, and I know the answer because I've been to your school and watched it, even with this parallel training concept and multiple classes running at a time, your younger kids are the ones that tend to come in for the earlier sessions.
Absolutely.
It's just good for them.
Yep.
So when you can start having this discussion and really highlighting, the developmental benefits of this is the reason it's this time, knowing that they're going to ask, giving them that answer before they ever even ask. So our classes are at 3:30 or 3:45 or 4:15, whatever time it is. Our class, I'm going to use mine just because I know my spiel. Our classes start at 3:45 for our 3 and 4 year olds because we know that it takes kids about 3 or so hours to wind down emotionally and intellectually from that level of developmental activity. Once you factor in homework and your dinner activities and their bedtime, which is probably somewhere between 7:30 for somebody that age, then the fact that a child that age needs 12 to 13 hours of sleep and probably has to be up at 7 o'clock so that you can start your day, that's why we start at 3:45. And then I go right into my talk about the developmental benefits of the class. And since we started doing that, and it's not 100%, right? There's no magic bullet here. It's not 100%, but now the conversation, instead of, oh, I can't make that time, or we're too busy, or I can't, 2 times a week, you want me to commit to 2 classes per week? Now it's, wow, okay. So give us a minute. We're just going to have to look at our calendar and figure out how this is going to work. Not whether it's going to work. Now the conversation, and again, it's not all the time, starts to become, how is this going to work? So we actually gave them a little mindset injection there without them even realizing it. And I think for your own personal support, it's, don't take it personally if they simply can't or won't. Look at it for the value of, was there something I could refine here? Or was this just somebody that either legitimately couldn't make it or just wasn't willing to see the value in what I do?
Yeah.
Just let them go.
One of the things that I tell everybody with rejection is every customer who doesn't sign up, what was the reason? What was the reason they gave you? Whether it's true or not true. Okay. Sometimes it's financial, but they tell you it's time. Sometimes it's, I don't know, time, but they tell you it's, convenience. So write down whatever they said, because that gives you a good number or good, what we call business pain points.
Yeah, those could become like all blog topics too, by the way. Yeah. So here, that's a really good point. Sometimes they say one thing and it's really something completely different. So every now and then, if we see somebody that it's like, man, I want this kid in class, and I have we try to make sure we always have the time, but it doesn't always work out. If we have the time, we'll drill down into them and we will mindset them into enrolling or into at least revealing the truth.
Yep.
So I guess as we shift even into the next topic, which tends to be cost, oh wow, that's really expensive. Well, I could just write that down and say, all right, this is a price objection. Or I could say, really, what were you expecting to pay? Or, okay, it is a little bit costly, but expensive compared to what? So now you really start to get, well, it's expensive compared to the amount of time that I'm going to have to give up because I thought it was only once a week and it's really twice a week that you're asking me to come. And I have to give up this other thing or shuffle that to I have to change my dance class to this other one, which is a more costly class. And it's not that you're more expensive, it's that they're more. And you start to really dig down into what's going on here. And sometimes you'll get an answer that lets you change the conversation. Yes. Oh, it's really expensive compared to what? The class down at the Y, it's like, it's once a week. It's like $10. Well, it's once a week for 15 minutes in their gym, not even in a martial arts environment designed for kids. It's in their basketball court or their racquetball court, which nothing against it. It's where we all started, right, John? You shared the other day that
Absolutely.
You started in a racquetball court.
Absolutely.
Nothing against it. But there's a reason they charge $30 a month, and there's a reason I charge $290 a month. Here's why. And if I can lead them to seeing like, oh, we didn't realize there was such a difference, that price objection goes away. So speaking of which, let's talk price. So why do you think people give price objection?
Well, there's two things here that we need to realize. One is, how low is your trial special? Because a lot of people,
the T word.
I know people still use it. People
Man,
still
I'm
use
out. I
trial
gotta
special.
leave.
So, their child special is 2 weeks in a uniform for $10.
Low barrier
Okay.
offer, the LBO.
Yeah. Yes. They're got 6 weeks in a uniform for $19.99. They've got something that is so ridiculous that a consumer's brain is always going to be, oh, well, that means their price point is around this window. You know what I mean? We got that a lot. Whoa, can I just buy your 6-week special again? No, that was, a window where you get to come in and test drive our program. Your trial, if you're still doing trial, has to kind of be within the ballpark of your program. So right now, because of the situation that we're all living, right? Our trial program is 2 weeks in a uniform for $57, right? And when a customer comes in and a client comes in and they talk about the program, well, you're 2 weeks about $57 with a free uniform. I thought your program would probably be around $110. Oh, yes, sir. You're absolutely correct. That is our virtual classes, unlimited online. It's about, $110 a month. So I still gave him something with his, decision making or his assumption. However, our in-person program is this, okay? But there is a lot more to money than just breaking it down for them that way, right? Maybe they get paid weekly, they don't get paid monthly. Maybe looking at it from a monthly perspective is just far beyond what their brain can handle, right? Oh, Michael, that's no problem. Did you know that we also do it on a weekly basis, and that will only be like $30 a month? I'm sorry, $30 a week.
Yeah. So options is important. So really quick, before we get into that, because that's a really good thing. I just did a quick search while you were talking about like low barrier offers.
Yep.
So the average entry student at Harvard University, and I chose Harvard because as we make our shift to child development rather than just Joe's Karate. Sorry, Joe, you're just the one that There probably is a Joe's Karate too. I got to stop.
Yeah, here in Atlanta there is.
So the average first year student at Harvard University is going to pay $71,650. All right. Now imagine if they said to you, oh yeah, come to Harvard University. It's great. We'll give you the first semester for $3,500. Now I'm thinking, wow, $3,500. That's pretty good. That means I'm probably going to end up paying what, maybe $10,000 for the year, maybe even $10,000 for the second semester. Pretty good deal. And then they slap you with $71,650, and that doesn't include books, meal plans, all of that stuff. What kind of sticker shock would you have going from $3,000 to $72,000? And really, what we did was a 90% reduction on a single unit of payment. So we're doing the same thing in martial arts right now, right? My average student is paying me between $2,000, $3,000 a year. I'm not quite up to Harvard rates yet. But if I offer them a $19.95 trial or $9.95 for the first month trial, that's 10% or that's 90% off what I would normally charge. So even though it's at a smaller scale, percentage-wise, it's still at that same, like you're smacking them in the face. Now, are there ways to do this? And can you educate them ahead of time about it? Absolutely. Now, low barrier offers do work, but they work on a numbers game. They work on, I want for $1 a month. And look, we've all done it. We've done the $1 for 6 weeks and a free uniform and a free parents'
Mhm.
night out. And here's a $20 gift card to your favorite restaurant. Stupid deals. And you get 100 people through, 10 stick with you, 5 of them quit because they're flaky sorts that just wanted the money and they weren't. And then you get 5 of those students who stick with you long term. Well, the way I do it now, I just find those 5 students right from the beginning. I don't go through having that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was just talking about low barrier offers. So now, John, you started talking about options. So if I come in and I see a sticker shock of like, wow, it's $292 a month. I'm a military family, maybe. I only get paid on the 1st and 15th. So it's not even every 2 weeks. It's twice a month. And I've lived on that budget, which means in a month where there's 31 days, man, you're having ice soup for dinner on that 31st day. So how do those options help? You mentioned like a weekly, and we offer it weekly as well. It's a pretty popular plan.
Psychologically speaking, because again, you guys, besides just being entrepreneurs, look into the science and psychology behind sales and how people think. Okay. And by the way, if you haven't signed up for MegaCon yet, this will be coming to you guys at MegaCon. But psychologically speaking, when it comes to any Joe Schmo out there, the less the value they hear, the more attractive it is. It doesn't matter if that value is weekly or daily or monthly. You know what I mean? Like, they want to hear the low number. They don't want to hear the big number. At the end of the year, if they pay $7,000, they don't mind paying the $7,000 as long as they hear that it's only $25 per week.
That's an interesting, just as a side note, our old software that we used to use, the one with bad weather, that software. Yeah. One feature that I really we're sponsored by the studio. I can't talk about it. One feature that I really did like that they had was on every member's profile, it had a running total of how much they've paid you. So if they were a student for a month, it said 100 and whatever. If they'd been with you for 5 years, it said they've given you $27,000.
Yep.
And it really put, so now we're not so much talking about them. We're putting you in the mindset of, wow, these people gave me $27,000. I better take care of them. So if we can reverse that psychology and also get them to see like, wow, I spent $27,000. I spent only $27,000, and this is all I got for it. So building that value prop too. So Tony has a good comment here, and it's not showing the whole thing, so I'm going to read it off the side screen here. It says, that's why on our marketing material, we state that classes are as low as X per class. Since we have packages that contain X number of classes, so kind of like class pack, I guess, when we can state that it averages between $9.50 and $20 per class based on the package they select, it gives us a different perspective. So I've done that as well. And it does work, and sometimes it does help to, especially as you're charging more and more, to mitigate sticker shock. Yes, it is $292 a month. However, this is how many hours of training you're getting in your different activities. It's really only $15 a class. And in fact, this goes back to back in the late 80s, early 90s, EFC used to use this, Educational Funding Company. This was one of their primary sales tactics. Price objection. It's $100 a month. Back then, $100 a month was a lot, right? Oh, $100 a month, man. So let me ask you, Mr. Johnson, do you drink coffee? Do you make that coffee at home, or do you buy it at the donut shop? I don't think we had Starbucks back then. Well, that's $1 a day. That's $30 a month. So if you make your coffee at home just once a day, you've saved $30 a month. And now classes only cost you $70. Sign here. So yes, it is an effective sales tactic. Here's why I don't use it anymore. And I'm not telling you not to use it, because if it's working for you, use the snot. Use it all day long. The reason I no longer use it is because I don't ever want to say as low as. I want to hit them with the full tuna, not the little filet, not the carpaccio, not the little tuna steak. I want to hold that full tuna and trout slap them with it. Anybody that's ever seen Monty Python, you know about the trout slap. If you don't, go do your research. I want to trout slap them with it because I want to see what their reaction is. First of all, so I can measure how have I done on my value, but also, is this somebody that I want? Do I want somebody that needs to know, well, it's really just $10 a class? Or do I need somebody that comes in and says, look, I want the best for my child. I don't care how much it costs. Now, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle as to who I'm going to get, but that's what I do now. It works for me. You don't have to change a thing if it's working for you.
I think it also has a lot to do with how you represent yourself and your studio and everything in your market and in your area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of weight behind that. So for us, if you say as low as, then you're kind of undervaluing your program, right? And you know, Tony, we're not necessarily picking on you. It's just a matter of like the different mindsets. Yeah, you want to attract that mindset that goes, oh, we're gonna pay $250 a month, but they're a child development center. They understand how children learn and grow. They know, like kind of like yesterday in the in our group, how I sent you guys the picture, right, and the video about mini skills. How many of you out there are doing mini skills? Everybody's like, I don't want to babysit. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. We just graduated another kid yesterday, 28 months old, 29 months old, from the mini skills program, religious mini skills program for a year.
Wait a minute. I know Mini Skillz is not going to have 100 little toddlers running around paying you $1,000 a month.
No.
It's a 30-minute session that honestly half the time is 20 minutes because that's all the kids can handle if you have a younger skewing class.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes. Let's say you put just 6 kids and their parents on the floor. In 20 minutes, times 6, times whatever your tuition is, you've made that much money. And here's the kicker. The parents do all the work.
Yes. And the awesome thing about it is, just as a side note, I know we're kind of getting like off a side track, but again, it's money and time and convenience, right? We're not charging nearly as much for the mini skills as we are for the regular program, right?
Nope.
But it creates, it helps us set parent skills in the picture. It helps us with the life skills when we're working with them. It helps us explain to them why we do what we do. In other words, we're creating our envelopes using the mini skills module. So everything else sets in place. That mom, every single week she comes, she is tagging us on Instagram every single week about how her daughter has grown. Her daughter is 29 months old. Her form, her technique, her ability to do things was better than the early skills kids. And she's half their size.
So that sets up 2 things. I don't even know what we charge for mini skills. So I'm going in and looking now. All right, yeah. So we're at like $60 a month for mini skills.
We are. Same here. So we're $60 a month.
Here's the deal, though. I don't look at a student as what do they get me per month. Now, yeah, in the martial arts, we do have this thing where it's like, oh, if I want to do X, it costs Y, so I need Z number of students to be able to cover it. It's a useful metric. Probably not the best metric, but it's useful. I don't look at mini skills as, well, they make me $60 a month. I look at them as my mini skills kids, their lifetime student value is something like 80% higher than a student that comes into my early skills class.
Yes.
Because they stick around longer. They are more steeped in the culture of my school. By the time they're 3.5 years old, they've spent half their life in my school. It's already their identity. Now, here's the hidden value of a mini skills student. John, how did you say that mini skills student performs when they get into your early skills class?
A lot better.
Good.
A lot better.
So if I bring my 3-year-old and you know, the typical parent says, I've got a 3-year-old, he doesn't listen. Can you fix him? And they look past his shoulder and see this other 3-year-old who's performing like a 5-year-old. Guess where they're signing up? It's the hidden value of mini skills. Yes, it does. It's income, and yes, it does build your next highest program. But holy cow, when parents come in there and see other 3-year-olds performing so far above stage of development, and you get to say, oh, that's little Bobby. He's been with us for 2.5 years. He started in mini Skillz. You start that young? Oh, I need to sign up right now. It makes the conversation now not, oh, it's too much money. They don't care what mini Skillz cost anymore. They don't even care what early Skillz cost anymore. They want to know how their kid can be that kid.
That kid, exactly. And at that time, like, because they see that, wow, that, like, wait a minute, who's that kid? How old is that kid? She looks like, yesterday I got it where, oh my gosh, that is that kid 3-year-old? No, ma'am, she's 29 months old. What? Yeah, she's been in our mini Skillz program. Mini Skillz is ranges between 18 to 36 months old. She's been in the program for a year, and she already graduated out of that program into this class. And I guess you noticed how well she does, how well she follows direction. I mean, it speaks for itself, right? So the babysitting concept kind of like has to go and dig into a world that every mom and dad out there is paying for. They're just not paying you. They're paying Gymboree, they're paying My Little Gym, they're paying all these other facilities. They're paying for swimming, they're paying, I mean, seriously, I've got a mom right now that I'm talking to. Her daughter is in the basic Skillz. Her son is only 1 year old. I'm gonna go ahead and test drive a 1-year-old into the mini Skillz program and see how well we do. Why not? What else do we have to do at this moment?
Yep. So just to talk about like the babysitting concept, our very first mini Skillz student. So we started the program. That's not true. We started the program twice. The first time we did it and we failed. And then we went back and revisited why we failed. And it was mostly because nobody else was doing this. And the market didn't even know it was the market. Yep. So we had to go back and put it on pause and develop a market first and then restart the program. And the second time we were far more successful. So our first student from our second go of mini Skillz, she started when she was 2.5. She's now in extreme Skillz. So is this babysitting when a student has been with me through, and she was just in early Skillz for a couple months because she just wasn't quite ready for early Skillz. So she did a couple months in mini Skillz, 2 years in early Skillz, 1.5 years in basic Skillz, 1.5 years in core Skillz, and now she's just about to finish up her first belt in extreme Skillz. She's still only 7 years old. 7? Around 7. I think she might have just turned 8. And she's blowing away the 10 to 14-year-olds.
Yep.
Maybe not in every single aspect, but overall, hands down, if I needed somebody to show what Skillz was about, it's her. And I'm really excited because probably end of next year. Yeah, so for around beginning of 2022, she'll be our first student to go all the way to elite Skillz. And then a few years after that, she'll be the first student to go from mini to black belt. And I have no doubt, like, she is 100% engaged. For 3/4 of her life, she's been a Skillz ninja. It's just who she is. So anyway, that was a little side note.
But again, we hear excuses from parents, and that gets stuck in our head.
Mm-hmm.
Am I charging too little? Oh, I'm sorry, am I charging too much? I need to drop my prices. No. Is my time this, that? No, it's not that. Like, one of the time rejections that when we get it, Michael, you know what? I totally understand that time is an issue for you. The other option that we have for you is for the same monthly tuition, I'll be more than happy to do a private class with your child once a week for about 20 minutes. I've got the time for it. We've got the time slots for it. What day would work best for you, Mondays or Wednesdays? Because you said that you're available on Mondays and Wednesdays, except the time slot doesn't work.
Yeah. And guys, if you're going to do that, just make sure you build in the times.
Yep.
Don't just say, I'll make it work, and then you're trying to juggle things.
Yeah. No. You have to have the team. You have to have the ability. You have to have the time block for it. But we are able to cover certain pain points that's presented to us by by suspects, right? because we've made that foundation. We know there are 3 major rejections that we get, and how can we tackle those 3 major rejections and be able to satisfy the customer.
And very often when you get them into those private lessons, they'll take a few private lessons and be like, oh, and then it's just the conversation. Okay, how do we make it work? And we'll get you into
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just get them in.
So it's a little investment on our part. All right. So the third major objection that we get is the one of, I guess, communication. I need to talk to my spouse. Now, in the old days, we had slightly more aggressive sales techniques. Like, well, is your spouse the only one that can make the decision, or are you a decision maker in the family? Do you want this for your kid? Then why do you need to talk to anybody else? And I think it was actually 100% the wrong thing to do, because it is. It's what we were trained to do by billing companies at the time. And they were doing it because we didn't have sales processes back then. And they were focused on just getting the sale. And I think what it does is it discounts, not in the sense of creating a discount, but it discounts the role of the family in the child's upbringing. I want the mom and the dad, or the mom and the mom, or the mom and the grandmother, dad and the aunt, whoever it is that's this child's caretakers, to all be involved and on board with this. And I think there's a couple different ways this goes. One, I think they say, well, I have to talk to my spouse, is the tactful way of saying no. You didn't convey enough value for me to sign up. So this goes back to sometimes what they say is not really what they mean. They still think it's too expensive, but they don't want to be the ones to say no. I want to talk to my spouse. We'll give you a call in a couple days. Very non-committal. The other one is, wow, I really see the value in this, but I legitimately just have to talk to my spouse. We want to make sure that this works for our family, scheduling and budget, and we want to see how it's going to work. So I think those are the 2 main ones. There's probably also a couple other reasons why somebody wants to talk to their spouse.
Yeah, it could be that they're split homes. It could be that, say, for example, one of our latest one was, well, dad is a police officer and he does the 12-hour shift. So I want to make sure, like, on the days that he's home, that he can bring them those days, blah, blah, blah. So there is always an excuse, right? But there is always a way to cover that before that happens, before that becomes an issue. And that starts with your first initial interview. And I call it interview because when they call you on the phone, they're trying to interview you, right? They're trying to get information on the phone before they get in the studio. So that's interview number 1. Interview number 2 is going to be when they come in the studio and you're doing the pre-evaluation. You're interviewing them, but they're interviewing you. So as you're doing the pre-evaluation and stuff like that, you're going through the second interview by letting them know and showing them, and they're asking you questions and all that good stuff. And then depends whether you need a third interview or not. That's going to be the spousal thing. However, I try to keep it at 2 because the longer you try to draw it out, the less opportunities there are they're going to sign up.
A little friction is a good thing. That's what polishes, the piece. Too much friction, and you do more damage than good. One other way that we sort of, or 2 ways that we deal with this is we pre-frame everything. So even going back to price and time objections, we price qualify everybody, even if they don't ask. Most people, how much is classes? And then they just say, hey, I'm interested in your programs. We give them the spiel and say, and the tuition for that membership ranges between something and something. Does that sound like something that fits your budget? Even on the phone, if they legitimately can't afford it, well, I'm not going to waste my time. I schedule qualify them. All right, your child is 5. They're most likely going to be in our basic skills program. We won't really know until we do the one-on-one evaluation that will help us place them in the best possible class for the stage of development. But most likely basic skills, those classes are. Is that something that fits your schedule? And I don't ask them to commit to anything, and I'll say, okay, well, let's wait until the evaluation to make this final decision, because it's possible that they could go up or down, and the schedule then might be a little different. We just want to know about what your schedule looks like. So I'm already qualifying those. When you come in, if everything works and we're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us and little Johnny has a great time, we're going to be talking about enrollment options. Make sure everybody that's involved in that decision-making process is there if they can be. And I add the if they can be. I used to just leave it at make sure they're there. I think it came across as a little brusque and salesy. So now, because people do work and sometimes it's grandparents that are coming in. So if they're available, please make sure that they're there. So that's the first part of pre-framing that those decision makers need to be there, because it's really hard for me to bring John and take him through my school and show him my whole thing, and he's sold, but he just wants to go home and talk to Jennifer, and he goes home to Jennifer and he says, "Oh my God, Jen, I went to this school and it's so amazing and it's only $187 a month." And she goes, "Stop right there. No." Because she didn't see the value. She didn't see how he worked with the kids and all that. So if I can get John and Jennifer into my school at the same time, it takes care of that. Now, legitimately, Jennifer can't make it. She's off doing a dance thing, as she very often is. Okay, we're very on board with you discussing this with your wife. We can't wait to meet her. And we're sorry that she wasn't here today. However, we know that this was a lot to take in. We've already given people our app. It's part of our process to have them download our app. And while we're doing that, we're showing them, here's how once you discuss it with her, here's how you're going to sign up. So you don't even have to come back in. We already know everything we need to know. You'll just click these buttons and you can sign up right from home. However, I know that Jennifer's probably going to have some questions. This is the messaging tab. You can hit this and message us. It'll go right to the entire team, and we'll be able to answer any of those little details that maybe you forgot or that you couldn't find in our enrollment process or on our website. Now, is it perfect? No. But about 30% of the time, I wake up to a $2,000 sale because I gave them the tools, and they legitimately just needed to talk to their spouse.
There's a couple of other different ways that that can be done as well, and simply starts out on the phone, right? So you're going to have to schedule a pre-evaluation, and right after that pre-evaluation, you're going to do the office chat or talk to them about the program or whatever the case may be. It could be done right then and there as you're scheduling the pre-evaluation, right? So it would be where Michael would love to schedule a pre-evaluation for Robert. Which night would work best for you guys? Now, Michael, what I would really love to do is have you and your entire family come in, mom, sister. Based on the conversation you had, you're going to be able to tell whether the parents are together or not. But I'd like to approach it in a way where, Michael, I would love for you and Heidi to come and watch Robert as he does his pre-evaluation that night. What night would work best for you? Right then and there, I've already drilled it in his head that I'd like to see them both in there, okay? Without me having to sound so like, if both of you don't come and make a decision, whatever.
It's important to avoid those faux pas when you're like, well, is dad coming too?
Yeah.
There's moms. We don't want to offend people, or maybe dad's not in the picture. Maybe dad died. Maybe dad ran off. And I'm just using dad as an example. It could go anyway. But by being very open-ended about the way you ask that question and pre-frame it, I think that's important as well. It's sensitive to their family situation.
And it could be a rejection right then and there where, you know what, John, Heidi works, she's a nurse, she works in the evenings, blah, 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 she can't make it that day. I already know what I'm going to do when Michael walks in the door. You ready, Michael? Because this is going to really get a lot of people, right? I have to do my chat. I have to do the pre-evaluation. We have to do everything, right? So there is nothing that's hidden about it, right? But I want mom to see it. Michael, don't get me wrong. There is always a missing link in the communication. You're not going to go home and relay the message the same way as I relayed it to you, right? Sure. Michael, thank you so much for coming. First of all, when they walk in the door, I don't pay attention to Michael. I pay attention to Robert, because I want to make sure that, the kid is the one that's important for that day. And then I'll get up and I'll say, Michael, thank you so much for coming in. Since Heidi wasn't able to make it, would you do me a favor? And it's like, yeah. Well, get your phone out and I want you to videotape everything that we do today. Okay, I want you to videotape the pre-eval. I want you to videotape our conversations. That way, when you go home and you talk to Heidi, she has everything in there. But just in case you decide to, hey, and most men are like, yeah, I can never relay a message anyway. And she asks a ton of questions. Like, I already know that what's happening here, and that's part of sales psychology. Is the information is not gonna be relayed the same way as the person who's
Look, we've
proficient
spent
at
the
it.
past 5 or 6 years honing our craft.
Yeah.
Joe
And
Dad is not going to come in, watch us for 15 minutes, and then go home and do what we do and make that sale to the spouse.
yeah, and it's kind of like, me and Jennifer when it comes to the dance world. Forget it. I can never remember anything in the dance world. And it may be in my calendar, but I still like, so when is class tonight? She goes, it's in your calendar. Her first answer, it's in your calendar, right? But I do the video because the way I present it and the way we do it and the way the team handles the kids and everything, the awe factor is absolutely amazing, right? You're never going to speak about the awe factor because it's your first day. You're never going to be, it's like, oh my gosh, and they did this with Robert and they did that. And, it's not going to be the same. But just watching it alone, for the second time around, it explains why we charged what we charged. It explains why we do what we do. And I don't have to worry about the missing link.
So there's a couple of good comments and questions here. I'm going to do the last one first. So Tim asked, let me pop it back up. What details do you cover on the phone so the price you give them over the phone makes sense? To me, that seems like a 10 to 15 minute call so they can see the value. So there's 2 theories of phone sales. One is, thank you for calling 4GK Martial Arts. You calling for yourself or for a child? For a child, how old? Thank you. Or is it better to come on Wednesday or Thursday? Good. Thursday, I have 4:15 or 4:30. Thank you. We'll see you 4:15, 4:30. Click, done. First theory is make the appointment, get them off the phone because you want everybody in your school. That works. It's not the way I do it, and I'm not telling you to do it the way I do it. It does work. The problem is now when they come in, you have to spend more time creating that relationship, filtering them out, finding out that half the people that come in didn't have any intention of signing up in the first place or just aren't a good fit. So we have a loose script that we follow. There is a lot of leeway for us to just have discussion, but we always bring that discussion back to this kind of flow that we like. We don't like scripted stuff because it sounds fake. But yeah, if a phone call needs to be 10 to 15 minutes, that's my front office person's job, is to spend 10 to 15 minutes making sure that these people know as much as possible about our value that I can convey over the phone. Not everything is well conveyed on phone. But yeah, they are price qualifying. They're discovering a little more about the child. They're setting that appointment, discussing why we're setting the appointment, what they'll do during the appointment. We're asking questions about the child so that we can make connection when they come in. So it is typically about a 10-minute phone call for us. Now, we are a low volume school by design. By design. We max out at 142 students right now, something like that. The numbers are a little off right now because of restrictions from COVID. But normally 150 to 165 is our hard max. We are full. We do not take more students. I only have an attrition rate of about 2 students per month. I don't need to do a lot of enrolling. So I take the time. We don't get a lot of phone calls because my processes are either automated or my marketing is so tailored that I'm only getting the people that already know these answers anyway. Now, if I was the other type of school that had to have 300 students, that had an attrition rate of 10%, and I needed to put 20 students in here every month just to break even, now I'm making appointments back to back, and I'll worry about who comes in later. But our no-show rate is really low. And we don't do trials either. It's come in for the evaluation, sign up, and we let them know. So take your time on the calls if you have that time available. If you don't have that time available, then you're gonna have to do it in other ways, either through, hey, thank you so much for calling. We'll get your appointment set up. Let me learn a little bit about your child. Okay, I'm going to be sending you a series of texts over the next 2 or 3 days before your evaluation. Here's what it's going to include. You send the walkthrough of your school, a little snippet of class, that sort of stuff. Chris Rodriguez is great at this stuff. So, you can ask her about it. I know we're coming up on time. So here's 2 more questions, almost the same, for raising prices on current members. So both Tim and Anna want to know, especially during these times, and how much can you go for? So first of all, why would you have an objection from current members? And I ask that for 2 reasons. First, would you have an objection because you're not giving them what you promised you would give them in the first place? Or did you have an objection because you don't believe you're worth it? So really, why are you going to have an objection? Usually whenever you raise rates on current members, it's not going to be much. It's going to be more in line with cost of living, or like Tim put on a new instructor. So that's like something you could legitimately say is a benefit to them. Usually for every $1 that you're going to raise, you have to give them $2 in value back, and then you're going to charge new people $3 in value for, in price. So as long as you're giving them value adds and clearly spelling that out, you shouldn't have any price objection to raising rates. If you're doing it all the time, all right, maybe. If you're nickeling and diming them, maybe. But if it's a legitimate price raise, once a year, once every 2 years, there's always going to be 10% of people that complain. I don't even listen to them. I replace them with somebody that's going to pay twice as much. So how much can you raise? Well, it depends on how much value you've added, especially like right now. Like Skillz made the decision not to raise rates. We had it in our plan to raise rates for like June-ish.
Yes.
We chose not to because a lot of school owners are struggling. Parents, however, are fearful of struggling. The unemployment rate is really high right now, but it's not as much as we feared. It's not as much as in the beginning, 80% of people are going to lose their jobs, and how are we going to live? Most people are just fine. They are just scared because there's the perception of the economy is doing poorly. So in my school, I just raised my rates. I just went from 167 to 292 for my highest level programs. And I already have it planned for 6 months from now, raising them again. So how much can you raise them? I don't know. It depends on your demographic and what you're adding. You added a new program and you're giving it to your existing members for free, and you're charging new people $40 a month for that new program, raise them $10. I think another consideration there is also, how much do you need to raise them? Not like, I think I can raise them $10, but did you sit down with a business plan and write out, like, here's my projected number of students, my projected cap, here's my projected overhead, this is what I need to charge per student. Or this is what I guess it would have to be like your average student value, factoring in what new people are charging and what your old people will be having to pay. Where's the middle ground? And then you make the decision based on math. And you just put out the letter saying, guys, between in New York, I can only have 33% of capacity. North Carolina is opening, I think, Friday with 30% capacity. You can't expect me to keep my doors open and not raise my rates. I'm not going to raise it 60% to make up the difference. But, explaining this and having these conversations, these are no longer sales. These are relationships, that you have. So it's important to really know your people and how much they value you.
Very good. Like you just hit it, because you don't want to go in there raising it, and then you realize that it becomes counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. And Tim just raised it and put right in his letter. Yeah, I hope I'm not revealing anything too personal, but he put right in his letter that because of this, and this, he hired a new instructor, brought in more skills, put into the things that the benefits he's taking, and he says new members will be paying this because of your loyalty. We do have to raise rates, but we're going to give you this discount, and you're only going to be paying this. And I think that was really a classy, tactful way of price anchoring the high point and saying, look, I do need to do this, but I'm taking care of my people.
And if there is any rejection and people quit because of it, guess what?
They were already.
They were going to, yeah, they were ready to quit anyway. You know, you just kind of like, you know, kind of pushed them out the door. Well, maybe they would have quit like, you know, a month or two later. No, chances are they were just waiting to send you that letter that notice that they were going to quit.
Yeah, they were waiting for the first time little Johnny didn't earn his stripe, or the first time that soccer practice got scheduled on the same day, or the first time that the grandparents were in from out of town to visit, or the first time that, oh, it's just so nice and we want to go to the beach. You know, there's always going to be some churn.
Yep.
Even if you dropped rates, because I've done it before. I've dropped rates back in the old days. I don't do such things anymore usually. But I've dropped rates and lost people because of it. I don't know what their mindset was behind quitting.
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to figure that out.
But it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's always going to be some churn, and you know, if you estimate that you're going to lose 10% of your people from an increase, factor that into your increase. That based on 90% of what I have now, what does the increase have to be? And then if you keep 100% of people, now you're ahead of the game. You know? Yep. So good questions. Thank you for posing them. We are right at time. So the recap, just really quickly, is there's three main reasons that people give us to object to joining or upgrading or whatever it is. Time, and we learned that it can either legitimately be that they don't have or perceive that they don't have enough time, or that they do have times, but their times don't correlate with the times you have available. Money, do they see the value, or do you have to pre-frame it, or can they legitimately not afford it? And communication. Are they communicating with everybody that's involved in the decision-making process? And then how do we get past this? Keeping a most common objection log so that you can build these things into your conversation before they ever have a chance to ask, either by pre-framing or by showing the value of what you do. By providing the tools that they'll need to communicate beyond the school. So John mentioned recording the eval, or I mentioned having that app and showing them how to communicate with you and sign up at home. And by communicating these things in advance in your marketing. So not just, hey, here's my latest sale, but by attracting people that already see the value in what you do, and then spending time to craft those relationships. Of course, we then asked a little bit about, current students. Those objections tend to be a little bit different because they're based on the strength of the relationship that you have. And it's more about you and them than about the actual money or the actual time. So hope you guys got something out of it. If you guys are having struggles with any of this, please let us know. And if you can, get to MegaCon. It's about a month away, and we're going to cover some of this in depth. John specializes in this sort of thing. So you'll have a great opportunity both to hear his presentations, but also to dig in personally. What do you give for your 292 program?
That's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation. I'll tell you what, though, it's the same that I used to give for my $60 program, and it's the same that I'll be giving for my $399 program. But we could talk about that. That's a complete show in and of itself, and in fact, that is some of my topic at VIP Day. We've been talking in the Lifetime members group and in the Skillz members group even about why aren't we $399 a month schools? And we know we can be because we do have Skillz members charging that much and more. So there's no reason we can't be. And that's part of the shift to Child Development Center. So if you can get to that, even if you can do just the live stream, I know traveling is a little hinky right now, but if you could do the live stream for VIP Day, I think there's some of that still available. go to megaconescape.com and check it all out.
Yeah, a few spots left. Really, few.
Yep. All right. So I got to go get ready for my Department of Health inspection. They will be here in about an hour. So we may be having very good conversations next week. How do we overcome health objections?
Now, you got this.
We are well prepared for these guys. We're just going to go through now with the fine-tooth comb, and we're going to rock it. We're going to blow their socks off.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Only one thing left to do. Go get it.
Go get it.
Go get it.